I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you want to lose fat and build muscle and look like that superhero physique that you have in your mind, it is hard. It takes discipline, but it is not complicated. It is a simple practice. It is a simple methodology. All right, good morning. Welcome to week 13, heavy push day. If I seem distracted, it's because I've got some plumbers here at the house right now. It's been a busy morning talking with contractors about fixtures and coordinating bus stops and school drop-offs. I'm about an hour, maybe about 45 minutes later to this workout than I normally am. It's kind of been a stressful morning, so I'm hoping that, I don't know if you can hear it, that they're literally like sawing pipes and I'll be doing a bunch of stuff. So hopefully I can get rid of these distractions, focus on the lifts, because that mind-muscle connection is really important. But also, lifting weights is a really good way to relieve stress, so hopefully it'll help in that manner. So the push workout, we're in the third week of our new routine. We have bench press, shoulder press, seated shoulder press with dumbbells, tricep dips, I should say, lateral raises, and then tricep pushdowns to finish. So not like a major topic today. I think we will review the basics about the cut that I'm in and calorie deficits, protein, and that type of stuff. Just because that's the goal of my channel. I really just want to make it seem uncomplicated, because it is, to lose fat and gain muscle or maintain muscle, right? So I just want to show you exactly what I do, what my routine is as far as my workout. And then I always, every day, show you my weigh-in for the day, and we go over the nutrition for either the previous day or the weekend for on Monday. So I just want to give you just a behind-the-scenes view of what it looks like for someone who is consistently has a plan and is executing that plan, or at least attempting to execute that plan to lose weight, gain muscle, or maintain muscle. Right off the bat, I'll say I qualify the whole losing fat and either building muscle or maintaining muscle. I always qualify it with building muscle or maintaining muscle, because a lot of it just depends on your experience. How long have you been resistance training? Because at the beginning, you can be doing the same thing at the beginning and 5 years later. And at the beginning, you're losing fat and gaining muscle, but 5 years later, you're losing fat and just hoping to maintain your muscle. It's because of the phenomenon that many may know or aware of, called newbie gains, right? So when you're an untrained individual, it's easier for your body to build muscle. So all you have to do is be in a slight calorie surplus, a slight calorie deficit, getting enough protein and resistance training, and that's enough for your body to let go of fat while still building muscle. After you've built enough muscle, after over a few years, your body is not as quick to put on that muscle. In fact, it wants to try and eat the muscle away when you're in a calorie deficit. So it becomes harder to build muscle, and you're really just hoping to maintain it and not lose muscle when you're in a calorie deficit. All right, let's get our warm-up. As always, our warm-up for our compound lifts is always 50%, 50%, 75%. On the 50% sets, I like to do somewhere between 6 to 8 reps. And really, that's the same for the 75% as well. 50% sets, I like to do 10, and I like to do 6 to 8 for the 75%. So I've got 135 put on. The series when I say work week 13, I'm in week 13 of a 20-week cut. That is what this playlist, this series is. I'm hoping to lose 40 pounds over 20 weeks, which is an aggressive cut. 2 pounds per week is on the aggressive side, and it becomes really important to maintain a high protein ratio in your diet and maintaining lifting heavy weights consistently to signal to your body not to eat the muscle, eat the fat. And even then, over 20 weeks, I'm probably still going to see some muscle loss, but I really wanted to lose the fat as quick as possible. I like being aggressive. I like going fast. I'm better at sprints than I am at marathons. And even 20 weeks is kind of on the longer side. So that's my goal. Shooting for about 1,000 calorie deficit, which should put me about at that 2 pounds per week. And I'm shooting for about 180 grams of protein, plus or minus. If I get 200, great. On some days, if I get 150, 160, that's also fine. Especially during the week when I'm shooting for 1,600 calories. If I get 160 grams of protein, that's getting 10 grams of protein for every 100 calories. And that is a great ratio to shoot for. And it's easy to keep track of. And you can just look at the back of your protein bar and say, oh, it's 200 calories. And so I'm looking for 200 minus a 0, 20. I want 20 grams of protein to hit 10 grams of protein for 100 calories. So that's a little method that I use. All right, this is set 2 of our warm-up. And of course, the 10 grams of protein to 100 calories is just a starting point. It's not a law. In fact, if you can find foods that have more protein than that, great, because you want to be shooting for about that ratio for your whole day. So some of your foods are obviously going to be way less. Even just fruits and veggies, which are good to eat, are not going to hit that ratio. So you're going to have to make that up with other foods. Luckily, there are foods like chicken breast, egg whites, or even certain protein bars like David bars that do have that higher than 10 grams to 100 calories ratio. And so I have to think about what I need to do for my, I think, is it 205? Is that? Let's see, 265 times 0.75, 5. Sorry. So if you can find foods that are higher in that ratio, so 20 grams of protein for every 100 calories, woo, that's awesome, right? I think that's close to what you might find in some really lean chicken breasts or egg whites. I can't remember off the top of my head. So you might be asking, well, AJ, why are you in 1,000 calorie deficit? Where did you get that number? And it's pretty simple math. 1 pound of fat is about 3,500 calories, right? So if I'm looking at a week, that's 7 days. Sorry, 1 pound of fat is about 500 calories. But if I'm looking at the overall week, I multiply 500 by 7. So that's 3,500 calories over a week, right? Or let me start over. I'm going to cut this out. Blah, 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 blah. Wave my hand so that I see it when I'm editing. All right, here we go. We got set 3. I've got 205 loaded on here. So you may be asking, hey Jay, where did you come up with 1,000 calories? How does that add up to 2 pounds of weight loss per week? 1 pound of body fat takes about 3,500 calories to burn. So if I want to lose 1 pound of body fat over a week, that's 7 days. I can divide 3,500 by 7. That's 500 calories. So if I just am in a 500 calorie deficit every day, right, then I'll lose 1 pound. If I want to lose 2 pounds, I double that. So that's 1,000 calories. So I need to be in 1,000 calorie deficit every day, and that will equal 2 pounds. Now, what you can do is you don't have to be 100% consistent with the exact number every day. You can, if you say, I want to do this over a week, you can just say, okay, I've got 3,500 calories, in my case, 7,000 calories that I need to be in a deficit of over the week. And you can spread those out so that you average that deficit over the week. Simply what that means is if I'm shooting for 1,000 calories deficit each day, that's about 1,900 calories for me. My TDEE, we'll talk about that later, is 2,900 calories. So I'm shooting for an average of 1,900 calories over the week. If one day is 2,000 calories, 100 calories more, then I need to balance that out the next day or some other day with 1,800 calories, one less. As long as the average over the week ends up being that 1,000 calorie deficit, that 1,900 calories, then I should still be good to lose 2 pounds per week. All right, let's see how this goes. Last week we moved up to 265. We got 6 reps at 255, so we bumped it up to 265 and did 4 reps. And then on my third set, I only got 3. I failed on the 4th. So got 265 on there right now. I'm not feeling like super amazing. There's sawing going on, some distractions. So I'm going to put some of my frustration and stress into it and see if that helps me get this weight up for 3 sets of 4. After this set or the second set, I'll have a good idea if I need to back down. I might take the 5s off on the side and go down to 2.5, and that would put it at 260 instead. But we'll see. That felt good, so I'll at least do that another time. Now, I'll remind you that 2 pounds a week is on the aggressive side. Something that's a little bit more sustainable would be half a pound. And think about it this way. If you're only shooting for half a pound a week, you only have to be in a deficit of 250 calories per day. That's not so bad, right? Right now, trying to get 1,900 calories a day, it's a lifestyle adjustment. But instead of 1,900 calories, if I was doing 29 minus 250, 2,650, 2,650, that's not so bad, right? The progress is slower, right? A half pound is going to take a while to lose 10 pounds. To lose 10 pounds would be 20 weeks, right? But if you only have to lose 10 pounds, do it over 20 weeks, that's great. It's a little bit more maintainable, especially if you're first starting out. Man, shoot for a half pound or a pound a week. And the numbers will be conflated with weight. If you're first starting out, the scale might not go down like a pound a week because you're also gaining muscle, right? But fat is fat. And when you are in a calorie deficit, you're going to burn fat. When you're first starting out, even if you're gaining muscle and the scale isn't going down, if you're in a 250 calorie deficit, 500 calorie deficit, you're going to be burning fat and likely gaining muscle if you're untrained or you're new to resistance training. All right, the first set felt good. It felt hard. Let's see how the second one feels. If this feels like really hard, if I'm questioning that last set, we'll talk about what to do on the last set. But let's see how it feels first, then make a decision. Oh. So that second set was pretty hard. That 4th rep was questioning whether I could get it all the way up. So I went ahead and took the 5s off, put on 2.5. So I'm at 260 instead of 265. Hopefully that's enough for me to get the full 4 reps on this last set. I don't know, we'll see. I've got the safety bars. If I do fail, not a huge deal. I didn't notice my timer go off, but I'm pretty sure it's been a couple minutes. So let's get this last set of bench press. We're at 260. We went down from 265 to see if we can get 4 here. Ugh. Got it. All right, so maybe 260 is what I need to be doing. Unless I'm okay with going 265, 265, 260. All right, we've got shoulder press. As a reminder, my ceilings are too low for me to do any kind of overhead lifts while standing up. So I am relegated to seated shoulder press. No matter, it's still a good stimulus, still a good workout. We've got 120, that's 60 in each hand, and I forget how many reps. I think we're shooting for 6, 8, something like that. There we go. All right, so you're like, great, 1,000 calories a week, or a day rather, to lose 2 pounds per week, 500 for 1 pound, 250 for a half pound. Great. How do I know what my starting calorie, my maintenance calories, how do I know what that is? You need to calculate your total daily energy expenditure. That's maintenance calories, TDEE, same thing, synonyms. Luckily, there are really easy ways to figure that out. Lots of smart people have come up with some algorithms and their online calculators, or better yet, you can just ask ChatGPT or whatever your preferred AI assistant is to calculate your TDEE. I have a system prompt I use that takes into account all the different inputs that you need, and ChatGPT will make sure to prompt you for all of those. It's basically just like your sex, your height, your weight. That's the bare minimum that you need, your age, and it'll figure out a rough calculation. And they're pretty accurate. I went to a research facility at a college here in St. Louis to get my body fat scanned and to measure my metabolic rate. And the measured metabolic rate was within 100 calories of what these online calculators for St. Mifflin Gior, whatever that algorithm spits out. I think it estimates my TDEE is 2,800, and it was 2,900. So it's pretty close, pretty accurate, I'd say. So that's how you figure it out. If you want more information about that, I'm happy to share my system prompt or give some resources to links, but that's how you figure it out. You get your resting metabolic rate for me, which is 1900, 1990, something like that. And then you add a multiplying factor for your activity level. So if you lift weights 3 days, 5 days, that plays into it. If you have a very active job like construction, that factors into it. Or like me, if you sit at a desk all day, that factors into it. And that gives you your total daily energy expenditure. And then from there, you can subtract your 500 calories, 1,000 calories, whatever it is, for your weight loss goals. All right, let's get this second set of dumbbell overhead presses. And I've been doing 9, which is good. That's an increase. So I feel like we're making progress on that. So how do you know if your calorie deficit is working? Well, the scale is one tool, right? And if you're first starting out and you're doing only a 250 calorie deficit and you're weightlifting, the scale might not change that much because you're losing fat but gaining muscle. But for the rest of us who've been training for a while, or if you're in a more aggressive cut, you can rely on the scale. But do not look at the scale from day to day. Do not do that. Your water weight fluctuates a lot. You may lose a lot of fat one day or not as much another day, depending on your activity level and stuff. So look at the average of the week. Weigh yourself at the same time every day, preferably after going to the bathroom and before consuming any water or food. That's going to give you the most accurate picture of what your weight was that week. And compare week over week for weight loss trends. So obviously you want to see that gradually going down. You're not looking for huge 5-pound swings from week to week. For me, I'm just looking for 2 pounds. And even if I get a pound and a half one week, I'm okay with that because I know that it might even out. I might get 2.5 pounds one week. So just look at your weight from week to week, not day to day. Last set of overhead presses. Ugh. There we go. All I could do to get 8 there. 9 on the first couple. Yeah, I mean, it's a good sign. Good stimulus. Alright, we've got weighted dips. We've got 80 pounds loaded on here. I'm looking for 6 to 8. Make sure you stick around. I'll do my daily check-in. We'll look at the weight from today and over the weekend and also the nutrition. I think it's just a really good way to see what am I actually eating, what are my actual calories and protein. And I know it's not pictures of the actual food, but it is the real food in food log format. So that's something that I always wish I would have had someone that I could just look over their shoulder. How are you logging your food? How do you do? When I was first starting out. So I think it's important. That's why I do it every workout with y'all. So we've already covered most of the basics, at least for nutrition. We talked about how to find your TDEE, your maintenance calories, how to figure out what your calorie deficit should be for your rate of fat loss. And we've really only covered fat loss. We haven't really talked about going into a bulk. I'll save that for another time. And we talked about how many calories are in a pound of fat and then how to figure out how many calories to cut from your diet. I think the last thing for nutrition is just to talk about protein goals. Rough rule of thumb is 1 pound for every pound of body weight, 1 gram of protein. Now, that's a gross oversimplification because if you have a high body fat percentage, so if you're over 25, 30% body fat, if you weigh 300 pounds, getting 300 grams of protein is not easy and probably not even recommended. But if you're like 20, 15% body fat, it kind of holds, right? I'm 190 pounds, give or take right now. So that's a pretty good estimate for me. I like to shoot between, I'm shooting for 180 to 200 grams of protein. There's another way to calculate it based off of your lean body mass. So if you know your body fat percentage, it can give you a little bit more accurate estimate of what you need. And I've done that. That's how I got to my 180 before. And then also just know that it's a target. It's a rule of thumb. If you get a little bit less, it's not a big deal, right? So if I get 150 grams one day, it's not going to kill my gains. But I just try and shoot for that average of 180, 200. If I'm a little bit less, not a huge deal. If I were being really strict, if I were trying to be a bodybuilder, I would be strict about it, right? Because any amount of muscle loss would not be tenable, right? If I'm in a cut, I want to hang on to every single amount of muscle that I can. And so I'm going to be very strict with that. I'm not a bodybuilder. I do want an aesthetically pleasing body. I do want to be strong. I do want to be fit and healthy. But I also want to live a normal life and bend over backwards, right? So take that for what it's worth. Second set of dips. Oh, if fat loss and muscle building and physique sculpting is a 3-pillar idea. We've talked about nutrition as one pillar. The other two are resistance training and rest and recovery. For resistance training, it's pretty simple. You want to make sure that you're pushing, pulling, lifting heavy things consistently. Find a routine that works for you. If you only have 2 days a week, you can do a longer upper body split. All right. If you only have 3 days, you can do a push-pull legs and just make it work. Just make those workouts a little bit longer than an hour, right? Make sure you're getting enough volume, which I don't know off the top of my head, but an AI assistant will help you. And I've got, my weekdays are pretty consistent. So I just shoot for 5 days a week and I shoot for about an hour or less. And I do a push-pull legs because I like the split. I like the recovery it gives me between the different muscle groups. And I like the weights or the exercises themselves, the way that they're broken down. So push-pull legs, upper body, bro split, where you're doing individual muscle groups per day. Doesn't really matter too much as long as you're being consistent and you're shooting for progressive overload. Progressive overload just simply means that you're lifting more this week versus what you were last week. And you measure that in volume, which is just a combination of the number of sets and the weight that you do. So lift heavy things consistently, shoot for progressive overload. And if you want more details about that, I've got some videos talking about how I came up with my pull leg split, how I talked back and forth with ChatGPT to customize a plan for me that worked with my schedule, my needs, my weaknesses, my strengths, and then account for overall volume, right? To make sure that I'm not spamming just my triceps to get my triceps big. In fact, it helped me target my back because my back has probably been left behind in the past. And so I wanted to add a little bit more to that. So resistance training, that's the second pillar. Let's hit this last set of dips, and then we'll talk about rest and recovery. Not that there's much to talk about. Last set of dips. Can we get 8 again? Oh! Whew, that was hard. Felt good though. All right, I'll just move on to lateral raises. I've got 40 pounds. That's 20 pounds in each hand. I guess I'll stand over here. I think I'm shooting for 12. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you want to lose fat and build muscle and look like that superhero physique that you have in your mind, it is hard. It takes discipline, but it is not complicated. It is a simple methodology. There's 3 pillars. There is your nutrition, there is your workout, your resistance training, and there's your rest and recovery. Eat in a calorie deficit. Prioritize protein. Lift heavy things consistently using progressive overload. And then make sure you're getting enough sleep and rest. Give your body time off. Program your workouts so that you aren't hitting the same muscle group every day. Give yourself days off. I take the weekends off of weightlifting. We could just say that you should try to get 8 hours of sleep. If so many people are just like, oh, I can't get 8 hours of sleep. I only need 4 hours of sleep. I'm built different. I don't know. What if you just tried it? What if you gave up a couple hours of Netflix each night so that you could get 2 more hours of sleep? Even if you're only getting 4 now, 6 would be better. 6 to 8 hours that's what they recommend. They being the experts, the scientists. So 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. and doing all those other things and tell me that you don't grow muscle and lose fat. Just saying. Next set of lateral raises. Ugh. That last pillar is rest and recovery. And it's probably the simplest, but maybe one of the hardest ones to stick to. And that's just, first part is just make sure you're getting enough sleep at night, 6 to 8 hours. I know it can be hard. I know you've got a lot going on. I know you've got to get up early. I know you've got to put kids down, and then you only have a short amount of time for yourself. You're tired, you're stressed, you're exhausted. You want to just binge Stranger Things and watch the whole season. And I know there are other things too. I know those are not the only reasons. There are outliers. So maybe you work the night shift. Maybe you have other circumstances that prevent you from doing that. But for the average person, I think that what I'm describing is the tension, right? I want to have enough me time at the end of the night. And so I can do, what's it called? Revenge bedtime procrastination, right? You don't have enough time for yourself during the day, so you stay up super late. Or maybe you just think that you don't need as much. Maybe you think you only need 4 hours. I would just challenge you to try. If you can stick to a nutrition plan and a weight training plan, just try throwing in. Start with baby steps. If you're only at 4 hours of sleep, shoot for 6. If you're at 6, shoot for 7 or 8. I can tell you that getting 8 hours of sleep makes a huge difference on your body's ability to recover. That's when your body is actually building the muscle, right? When you're pushing the weights and stuff, you're breaking the muscle down. You need to give yourself time overnight in a recovery state, in a resting state. And I would say the other side of it from sleep is muscle recovery. So don't hit the same muscle group back to back. That's why I love pull legs. You're hitting a different muscle group each consecutive day. And so by the time you come back to the next push workout, your chest and shoulders and stuff have gotten enough time to recover. And take a day or two off. Take 3 days off. I take the weekends off. I take 2 days off. Sometimes I don't work out on Friday and I get 3 days of recovery. So make sure that you're giving your body both time overnight to repair and also just full days of rest as well. I think this is the last set of lateral raises. How about a quick check-in? So we weighed in at 189.9 today. Yesterday, Sunday, we weighed in at 190.9, which is a little bit higher. And when you see the nutrition, you'll see why that was. That put the average for last week at 189.5, which was really close to our goal. Our goal was 189.3 because the week before we were 191.3. So 2 pounds would have been 189.3. I'm okay with this because I know that jump on Sunday was like largely water weight. I mean, just the fact that I went from 190.9 to 189, I lost 2 pounds in one day. That's mostly water weight. That'll come back down tomorrow when we weigh in, as long as I keep my calories under control today. So this week, we'll be shooting for a goal of 187.5. 187.3 would be great or more. We'll see if we can make that up. But yeah, let's look at the calories and you'll understand what happened. we go back to Saturday, you can see 3,800, over 3,800 calories. We had a birthday party. We had like this church parenting conference in the morning. They had breakfast food. So, I mean, I had way more. I was kind of planning on not eating breakfast to make up for the birthday food. And then I just ended up having a bunch. I only had half a bagel, but I had a protein bar, I had all these little egg bites. Anyway, it's not the end of the world. We did have like lots of pizza and ice cream and cake. And that was just a moment of weakness. That was just me wanting to enjoy myself. And I think I tried to keep, I tried to keep it within reason. It ended up being 3,800, which is, still a lot. But if you take out breakfast, that's still 3,000, and my maintenance calories are 2,900. So not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. The average for the week for calories was still pretty close to my goal, 2,016. So I like to shoot for 1,800 to 1,900. So I was 100, 200 calories over. But really, like, if you think about, man, that one day, for that being as crazy as it was, the average, it didn't really impact the average for the week that much. So that just goes to show how averages work and how you can get away with that. And maybe not get away is the right answer. Not that I want to be doing this every week. And even when I do have higher calorie days, I tend to try to stick to my maintenance calories or below. But yeah, so this week should be a boring week. Should be back to normal. Should be back to our 1,600 calories. You can see yesterday I was back down to 1,741. We made a soup yesterday for dinner, and soups I love because they are filling, and depending on the soup, they can be low calorie. We try to make low calorie, high protein soup. So I've got like this chicken and wild rice soup. That's going to be great to help me hit my goals this week. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, if you have questions about nutrition, about what I'm doing from day to day, how I'm tracking, how do I track recipes or like things that don't have barcodes and stuff like that, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to talk about it with you. And yeah, hopefully we can stick to the goal this week, hit our 2-pound weight loss. We're in week 13, people. We've only got 7 or 8 weeks left, so let's get it. All right, we've got tricep pushdowns, shooting for 8 to 10, I think. Almost forgot. Stick around, because after the diet break and after the last workout, we will do a physique update so we can see what we're looking like in week 13 versus week 12 and before. So last set, tricep pushdowns. We only do 2 of these, kind of as a finisher at the end. And yes, this is the last workout of the session. Oh, I think I'll have to leave it at 8. My triceps are like whining a little bit. I think the dips really got them today. All right, let's do our physique update. Week 13. even just tensing my triceps, like they feel like they're gonna Charlie horse. That's it. That's it for today. Hopefully the results are looking like results. Hopefully they're changing from week to week. I think they are. I know I changed the lighting up last week, but it helps a little bit. But I mean, even from last week to this week, I think there's a change. I think we're definitely losing body fat, and I can't wait to see what we get down to in the next 7 weeks or so. So if you've watched till this all the way through, thank you so much. If this is helpful to you, please like and subscribe. See ya.